would say that's the biggest misconception is why don't people just pay a fee and file a form and fix their status? It's oftentimes a lot more complicated than that, and there are a ton of barriers as well.
The idea for the podcast is to mostly to help educate expert witnesses on what they should do. So, I got some questions about immigration. I know you told me some things as well you wanted to talk about. I've seen certain news reports that I don't know if they're true, but is it true that they're deporting legal U.S. citizens?
Our immigration laws are so strict and so difficult to navigate.
Well, thank you so much. I don't want to take up too much of your time. So, the idea for the podcast is to mostly to help educate expert witnesses on what they should do. So, I got some questions about immigration. I know you told me some things as well you wanted to talk about. So I say, let's jump right into it. So, I know you mentioned that one of the things that triggered you as an immigration attorney was so much false information going around in social media. And, I can just imagine, I've seen them myself, where they say a new law passed that didn't actually pass, or that they're going to start doing something that is not accurate, either to benefit or hurt, or I guess not hurt, but, maybe not help a certain group of people. So for you, what's like the biggest piece of misinformation that's on social media out there right now that you would like to set straight?
A lot of people comment or post on social media, why didn't this person immigrate the right way or do things the legal way? And oftentimes our immigration laws are so strict and so difficult to navigate that it's just not as easy as saying that. I think that's a major misconception, that somebody can just apply for a visa and boom, it's granted the next month. Our immigration laws are incredibly complex. And even if you have a lawyer on your side helping you, sometimes it can be difficult or impossible to obtain legal status, even for somebody who doesn't have any criminal history or somebody who's willing to or has been contributing to our economy, to their local community. So I would say that's the biggest misconception is why don't people just pay a fee and file a form and fix their status? It's oftentimes a lot more complicated than that, and there are a ton of barriers as well.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice if it was that easy, right? Then everyone could just do it the right way. If it was really that simple.
Exactly. I mean, if we could pass immigration reform, we would have lines of people who want to come forward and do the right thing and pay our government to get a work permit, a social security card, a green card, and eventually citizenship. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of wonderful people out there that for whatever reason they are barred from doing that, oftentimes unlawful presence or an unlawful entry or some other issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know some people. I road tripped across the country, so I met a bunch of different people in passing, and I met some immigrants from Mexico that told me they paid Coyote, I think upwards of like $50,000 to cross them over. And before that moment, I'd always thought if you have 50 grand, you can just easily pay your legal way through. But it's like these people have purchasing power, right? 50 grand is a lot of money in any country, even more so in countries like that. So, I totally agree with you. It's like, it doesn't matter how much money someone has. It's just not as easy as just paying something. So
that's absolutely right. And you see people getting taken advantage of all the time, trying to come here with a coyote, or also being taken advantage of here in the United States with notarios or tax prep services, sometimes giving legal advice or applying for a case that may not be the correct path, and people lose a lot of money, unfortunately, trusting the wrong people.
Oh, wow. And there's no way for them to hire a lawyer and try to get that back, huh?
We can try, certainly. We can file complaints with the State Attorney Regulation Council against somebody who's engaging in the unlawful practice of filing immigration petitions or giving out legal advice when they're not a licensed attorney or an accredited representative under the Department of Justice. It's a special type of license you can apply for. And sometimes it is a crime. So if somebody does get taken advantage of to the point where we could file a police report, that may be another avenue to make somebody whole after they lose a lot of money and time.
Yeah. Okay. But it's not usually, it doesn't turn out very well usually, huh?
Well, I would say when it comes to immigration cases, the best thing that an individual or family can do is find an experienced attorney that they trust to handle their case, not somebody who dabbles in immigration law and maybe criminal law and family law. What we do is so specific, and it's ever changing, especially under this administration. You really need somebody who is focused and engaged in immigration practice to help you. I would say that's my biggest piece of advice.
Yeah. Such as elevation law in Colorado.
Yes,
Right.
that's the law firm I started almost 10 years ago. Although I've been practicing for closer to 16 years. But yes, our doors are always open to help folks.
Oh, okay. Okay. And so if, for example, we were talking about how, the path to legal status isn't such a straightforward manner. Let's say someone is here, they are paying taxes, they're doing everything right, except that their legal status is just, they're here illegally, right? Because it's not so easy to get it. What would you recommend that person to do?
Well, if that person has not already spoken to an immigration lawyer, we would advise that person to schedule an initial consultation with an experienced attorney to go over typically their immigration history, any criminal history if applicable, potentially whether they have a family member with status who could apply for them or start a case. And we also discuss a number of other factors that could help us get that person lawful status. For example, one type of case that a lot of people don't know about is called special immigrant juvenile status, where a child or a teenager may be able to eventually apply for a green card if one of their parents is unable to care for them. Depending on which state you're in, it could be somebody who is under the age of 21 years old or 18 years old, depending on the family law in that state. So in Colorado, it's actually 21 years old.
Oh, okay. And that would be in the case, let's say that both parents are undocumented, so this child is pretty much left on its own.
Right. So we have to show that reunification with one parent is impossible or not in the best interest of the child. And it could be that the person's living with another family member, such as an aunt, an uncle, an older cousin, an older sibling, step parents. And the status of the individual seeking custody of the child here in the United States is irrelevant as of now. So the person could be undocumented or they could have lawful status. Perhaps it is a family member that can't apply for the child directly, such as a cousin or an aunt or an uncle.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. And I'm guessing you help with those cases as well?
Yes,
Yeah.
we absolutely love helping families and minor children get legal status in the U.S. whenever possible.
Oh, okay. That's awesome. I was thinking of something that's been going around on the topic of birthright citizenship, which I know I didn't send you a question about it, so if it catches you off guard, let me know. But I am curious. I keep hearing that birthright citizenship is gonna get taken away. Some people say no, it's impossible. He's just making publicity about it. Others say that it will. What's your take on it?
I think I agree with what you've heard. I think it may be a publicity stunt. If theoretically we were to take away birthright citizenship, which has been a right for essentially as long as this country has been around, as far as I know, it would create a whole generation of stateless people. I couldn't imagine, human rights aside and doing the right thing, I couldn't imagine how we would even handle that. And, essentially what would happen with all the paperwork for the children born in our hospitals. So I think that would be absolutely insane, taking away birthright citizenship for a number of reasons.
Yeah. Okay. So it is just a myth right now, and it's very unlikely it'll happen.
That's correct. I've learned that politicians will say things to garner support, to get elected, to change the news cycle from something they maybe don't want in the news, and it's really unfortunate.
Yeah. Okay. And actually, another one I heard, I'm curious about, was that I think Trump had promised that anyone with a college degree, whether they're undocumented, whether they're here on DACA, whether they're on a non-immigrant visa, that anyone with a college degree, it will give them a pathway to citizenship. Do you know if that one was true?
That is a wonderful idea, and I'm all for it. I have not heard any official announcement to put that into place, but I absolutely agree that we should pass something along the lines of a DREAM Act, which is similar to DACA, but would actually give applicants lawful permanent residence, as opposed to DACA, which is deferred action that we have to renew every 2 years. The vast majority of this country is in support of passing a DREAM Act to help people who came here as young children. And I wish Congress would listen and act.
Oh, okay. And
but to answer your question, DACA it does not require a university degree. It does require a high school degree or a GED, which is the equivalent of a high school degree.
Oh, okay, got it. And then, because I always thought DACA was for anyone that was here before 2008 and that had been here for 20 years or so, right? A really long time.
Right. So Obama enacted DACA under an executive order back in 2012. So the look back period was actually 5 years, going back to 2007, in terms of physical presence requirements. So you're absolutely right. Since now about 13 years have passed and Trump stopped initial applications under his last administration, it is folks typically in their 30s and early 40s now who qualify to renew their DACA status.
Got it. So kind of talking about the topic of the DREAM Act and giving people opportunities here. How has practicing immigration law changed your perspective on the American dream?
That is a great question. I hope the American dream is still alive and kicking. I see evidence of it in our offices every day. Since I believe it does involve people coming to the United States seeking a better future for themselves and their children and their grandchildren. A lot of folks who are anti-immigration, if you talk to them, they're second or third generation immigrants themselves. So maybe their grandparents or their great grandparents sacrificed a lot to get here, and had that sense of adventure, or were fleeing persecution. And we see the same stories being told today, but now we have ICE and Customs and Border Patrol and drones and really severe restrictions and sanctions on immigrants who want to come to this country. But I think this country has a lot to offer them, and they have a lot to offer our country as well. And I hope that we can continue welcoming immigrants who will make a difference here and who want to be here and want to be part of our communities and give back.
Yeah. So it sounds like, the American dream is still alive, and there's just a few extra obstacles that have showed up recently in that. But, people can still come here, make a life, and have the American dream.
I would agree with that, although I would say obstacles is a very kind way of putting it. Defying the rule of law and attempting to shred our Constitution is not something that the people should put up with. But the nice thing about defending democracy and living in a country where we still try to uphold freedom of speech is the people can vote in and out elected officials and make absolutely sure they're doing what we want.
Yeah. Okay. And for people you keep saying that, or Congress, right, in general, not because you're saying it, but people can make petitions to Congress, and Congress can make changes, right? It sounds like that's kind of how it works.
That's correct. We still have individuals who work for our congressional officers that are assigned to fielding requests or petitions or inquiries for certain topics. So most congressional offices do have an immigration liaison that we can go to for assistance as needed, depending on what the issue is. And it certainly does not hurt to contact them by telephone, email, and even offer testimony in some cases if you have a personal story to tell, or you want to support a change in regulations or laws. That is everyone's prerogative in this country.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say does someone have to be a citizen to make a petition, or can anyone living here make a petition to Congress?
Anyone living here can petition Congress. If you do have lawful status, I believe it would certainly be helpful to say so in your request. And oftentimes, if you are putting in an inquiry regarding a pending immigration application, it may ask if you are the petitioner or the beneficiary. Typically, a petitioner is a U.S. citizen or resident, and a beneficiary is the person who is the applicant, who is asking for some form of immigration relief or legal status.
Okay. And for anyone listening, someone that may just have absolutely no idea how, is there a website that you go to make these petitions if they wanted to do some or support some sort of change?
Absolutely. So there are different organizations or nonprofits that will set up petitions or movements, and you can typically click on a link that they've set up to submit your information to support the cause. Otherwise, you can locate your representative on a website. Let me just pull that up by entering your zip code. And if you'd like, I can drop this in the chat if you'd like to let your listeners know.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the website is house.gov.
Oh, okay.
/representatives /find your representative.
Oh, perfect. So someone can go to this link, which I can just add in the description. You enter your zip code and then you know exactly what to do to report something or to say, oh, don't do this, don't pass this law.
That's correct.
Oh, okay, that's awesome. This is a great resource that, I think a lot of people don't know about it. Like they may want to do some support something, but they don't know exactly how. So awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And, I know you mentioned the ICE raids, and I know that's been getting a lot of publicity right now as well, especially because they just got a lot more funding. And so my question is, number one, I've seen certain news reports that I don't know if they're true, but is it true that they're deporting legal U.S. citizens?
Yes, it is. There has been several confirmed cases of that happening.
Mm-hmm. And it's not like someone that got naturalized. It's someone that was born here, born and raised here.
Yes, it's my understanding that our current government is targeting people who are standing up against unlawful practices, including detaining and kidnapping people with lawful status, sometimes in the middle of the night in front of their children. So we need to get back to, again, the rule of law, giving individuals access to counsel, and abiding by the legal process that we have in place.
Yeah, wow. That sounds terrifying. What would someone, like, if someone's already a citizen, what would they have to do? I don't know if you've seen, there's a comedy called Born in East LA where this guy, somehow he's like in the middle of a immigration raid. He didn't have his ID or anything, and he gets deported to Mexico. But he's a U.S. citizen, and then the whole movie is about him trying to get back, right? But in this, like in real life, like this is actually happening, right? Let's say you're a U.S. citizen, you have no documentation with you when they deport you back, and obviously you can't just say I'm a U.S. citizen. They'll probably not believe you. What can they do? Like what would someone do in that situation?
Well, I have known people who have dual citizenship, so they may have been born in the United States or naturalized, but they live in another country, so they may not have up-to-date documents to prove their U.S. citizenship, such as a U.S. passport or a driver's license. If somebody does have a U.S. birth certificate, they can certainly keep a photo of that on their phone or with them, or a naturalization certificate for when somebody becomes a U.S. citizen later on in life. But oftentimes gathering evidence can be challenging, especially if it's a young child who maybe only has one form of ID. Essentially, talking to an attorney who can help with records requests or proving U.S. citizenship, or engaging in communications with an ICE office may be the best step. It may be on a case-by-case basis, the strategy that we would choose to stop a deportation or get somebody back to the United States. We'll sometimes see this where U.S. citizenship is derived, meaning somebody had a U.S. citizen parent, but never went through the paperwork to officially obtain that U.S. passport or documentation. And in that case, we can certainly help. There's certain petitions we can file either with an embassy, a U.S. embassy abroad, or file an application here in the United States to help them get that proof of citizenship.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. At least there's some ways. But kind of going back real quick to the actual citizens that are getting deported. I know some people might not believe it or say, oh, those are fake news. It's not actually happening. Where can someone go? Let's say they hear this, they don't actually believe it. Where can they actually go online to see the news report and follow up with these actual citizens that are getting deported for standing up or being in the wrong place at the wrong time or trying to support people?
That's a great question. So I'd have to search to see if there's a reliable a news agency reporting on this. Personally, I get a lot of my information from these attorney listservs that I'm on, or attorney groups here in the United States.
Okay.
Typically, U.S. citizens should never be deported. They have a right to be here. However, in the areas we just mentioned where perhaps somebody derived citizenship or a person did not have documentation with them when stopped by ICE, that can become an issue.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's also the issue of whether the government could revoke somebody's citizenship. Typically, that only happens in really rare circumstances where the citizenship was derived based on a fraudulent immigration application, if that makes sense. So somebody would have had to lie or misrepresent information on their immigration application.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Got it. But I mean, it sounds like if it's not in like news channels, it's something that seems they want to keep quiet, kind of thing.
Oh, that's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
I would agree with that statement.
And then, in that case, is it true that an ICE agent can just stop you wherever you're going, you're walking, you're at the mall, you're at a store? Can they just stop you and ID you, or are you legally allowed to ignore them and walk away?
That's a really good question. If you're within 100 miles of an international border, there are fewer protections. So ICE can set up random checkpoints or ask to see a person's ID or proof of legal status when you get close to the Canadian or Mexican borders. Here in Colorado, we're in the middle of the country, so yes, you can ask, hey, can I leave? Do I have a right to leave? Can I call my lawyer? These are all, acceptable answers if somebody is undocumented.
I guess you do have to interact with them and ask for permission. It's not like you could just ignore them and walk the other direction.
Right. We want to avoid the scenario where somebody is seen as fleeing. So, do not run. But you can politely and calmly, if possible, I know it's a lot easier said than done, ask if you have a right to leave, or call your attorney. Even if you don't have a lawyer, that's okay. You can still say that.
Yeah. And in that case, could people call you?
Yes, absolutely.
They could call you.
And you can also call our hotline to report, our state hotline to report ICE activity if you do see ICE in your neighborhood.
Oh, okay. Okay. And, let's say someone is stopped by ICE, or maybe that they have any other immigration kind of urgent questions. What would be a good phone number they could reach you at?
970-455-1013.
1013. Perfect. Awesome.
And I would also advise people not to sign anything before talking to a lawyer.
Oh, okay. Because
for example, sometimes immigration officers will tell people to sign paperwork that is not in their best interest, such as a voluntary departure, or maybe a statement that they gave under pressure. So I would also advise not to sign any documents without speaking to a lawyer, and never sign any documents that you don't understand.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So it sounds like these immigration officers, they may be deceitful and say, before you can talk to your lawyer, sign this. And they're not going to tell you it's a voluntary departure or any other thing that could be harmful to you.
Correct. That is always a possibility.
Oh, okay. And in that case, could it be argued that they lied to you, or they were deceitful?
We can try, but unfortunately, if somebody does sign a voluntary departure or decides not to try to fight their case, it can result in being transferred very quickly to a deportation staging facility.
Yeah.
We've had clients who are, unfortunately flown out or transferred very quickly under this administration while we're trying to find them. So it's important to have some emergency planning in place. Having a couple phone numbers memorized is always a great step to take, especially with younger people today who don't know a world before cell phones, where you don't have to memorize phone numbers. Trusted family member or friend, maybe the phone number of an immigration lawyer, just in case. I certainly don't want to scare people, but as a lawyer, we like to plan. We like to say better safe than sorry.
100%, 100%. So I would totally recommend people to write down your phone number and just put it in a note and keep it in their pocket just in case.
That's a great idea.
But
we also have some Know Your Rights cards, so I'm happy to send you some if you like, and we can also email you the information. So if somebody's ever stopped by any type of law enforcement officer, it's always a great idea to know what you can and can't say, or what you should say, and what will happen.
yeah.
And a lot of local groups will do Know Your Rights trainings as well in the community.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is there one you recommend in particular?
Depending on the area, our office has done some. We have offices in Denver, Dillon, in Summit County, and Leadville in Lake County. And we've also partnered with a nonprofit called Mountain Dreamers up here in the mountains of Colorado, as well as Voces Unidos, and local churches will also sometimes help get events set up, which is great. So if you're interested in collaborating on one, I'm happy to talk to you about that as well.
Awesome. Yeah, most definitely. But I know we went past the 20 minutes I said it would take. So thank you so much, Karen. I really appreciate all your time. I don't know if there's anything else you want to share, or also feel free to talk about your law firm specifically, what cases you help with the most or are your specialty, and what type of people you help with, so that people know.
Oh, okay, great. Well, we have a lot of asylum cases right now, which is where folks have a credible fear of returning to their home country or their country of origin. And what a lot of people don't know is that you have to apply for asylum within your first year of coming to the United States. So there is that 1-year deadline. There are a couple of exceptions to that, but they're fairly narrow. So if anyone listening has recently arrived to the United States or knows somebody who has, they may want to talk to an immigration lawyer about that possibility. So typically, this is a type of case where applicants are fleeing persecution. And there's a lot more I can say about asylum, but I don't want to be here for 2 hours. Might be a never-ending podcast. And, really there are other options we haven't talked about today. There are special statuses for victims of crimes who help with law enforcement investigations. Not everybody, but certain serious crimes in the United States. There's also special statuses for survivors of trafficking in persons or human trafficking, which can be labor-based. So if you have any questions about that, I would encourage you to seek legal advice. And, we just try to help as many people as we can, and we're here to keep fighting.
We gotta fight the good fight.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'll definitely tell people about you if anyone needs help with their immigration, the asylum cases, like you said. But thank you so much, Karen, for your time, for your insights, for debunking some of those awful myths that have been going around and false information on social media. But yeah, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Ted. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Bye bye.